got a friend in me.
You got a friend in me. When the road looks rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed,
You just remember what your old pal said. Boy, you got a friend in me.
Hello, my name is John. I'm here with my mother, Patricia. Unfortunately, my father couldn't make it today, but we know he is supporting me from where he lives. I've been in Martin House for 15 years, and the mental health system has helped me. Before I was recognized as mentally ill, I was on the streets for a while, and then my parents, Patricia and John, realized I was mentally ill, and they sought help for me, and they both agree that Martin House is one of the best places for me. And my mother has been here for me, I don't know how many times. She's always been there when I got in trouble, always been there to lend an ear. And my dad and mom, they feel I got a lot of help by being part of the Martin House, the mental health system. Because like I said before, I was, on the streets and sick and didn't really know what was going on. But they've been very supportive in having to deal with a son who's mentally ill. And I've been speaking for the United Way to help raise money for Martin House and the United Way to share my story about my life and how my life has changed. And my parents are included in my future plans. I would like to be on my own, get my own apartment, maybe my own car. Unfortunately, I have to do a little bit better at saving some of my money, but I'm working on that as well. And I do have the support of Martin House, my Martin House friends, my family, and my other friends, and the support system has been wonderful. And I think my mom can tell you too that Martin House has done a world of good for me if you look at it from then to now.
Hi, I'm Pat, and John has done fantastic being with the Martin House. Before he came to the Martin House, we thought he was just a juvenile delinquent getting into problems and all kinds of, he smashed up a couple cars and different things. We didn't know about his mental situation until just before he came to the Martin House, and the Martin House has been very good with keeping him under control. They got him on the proper medicine. They take wonderful care of him, make sure that he keeps his room clean, he's fed properly, he does his laundry, he's able to work, which he couldn't do before. He's been able to stay at a job for a long time. And I always try to support him. If he's down in the dumps, he knows that all he has to do is pick up the phone, and I'm right there to help him out.
That's
I may give him the Dickens, and he may not like what I have to say, but he listens, and so does his dad. His dad is we're both very supportive, and we're very proud of how far he's come along with the help of the Martin House. And now that that goes around and does the speeches, he does a fantastic job. I've had people call me and tell me they've seen him and how wonderful he's done. My niece saw him at Bacchus Hospital and said he was fantastic. So we're very proud of what the Martin House has done to help him in his progress. And hopefully he'll be able to save a little bit of money and eventually get out on his own. I work with that all the time, but he'll get there. Everything takes time. But we're very happy with Martin House.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming and participating in Martin House Presents. Martin House recognizes the importance the role of family plays in a person's recovery. Could you please introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Mike Lomax.
Yes, and I'm Sarah Lomax, Mike's mother. How did you get involved in the mental health system?
I guess when Mike was having some troubles when he was around 11 years old, and it was a tough road because I got the wrong advice. People didn't know how to deal with it. We were in PHP, we were in after-school programs, there was some acting out, and some other things that were not understanding to me. So we ended up with the wrong advice from certain counselors to just go put him in the mental hospital. So he ended up in the one in Portland. for, I guess they call it a 24-hour or whatever diagnosis, and that sort of broke the trust between us because it was so sudden and abrupt, but there was counseling in place.
Yeah,
So-
I didn't really get a diagnosis till I was like 22, you know, a full diagnosis of schizophrenia, so I don't know.
And what does that diagnosis mean to you, Michael?
It's a lot of things, you know, it's a lot of things you gotta deal with every day, and it can be pretty difficult, you know, it's not the nicest illness to have, you know.
Can you name one thing that's difficult for you?
Especially voices. Sometimes they talk, and sometimes they talk all through the night, you know, and you can't sleep and stuff, so it's very difficult to go to sleep with something talking in your ear, you know. It's like,
Right. And so, as a family, how do you address the issue when Michael's hearing voices when you were living in the same place? As a family, how would you address that?
What do you think, Mike?
I tried sleep medication that try to help, you know, taking melatonin, and I'm actually on Benadryl now, which works pretty good, which works better than the melatonin, I think. But yeah, melatonin for a while, that's what we ended up doing. We talked to a doctor at CVS, you know, they recommended that, you know, and that worked somewhat with some sleep, you know, better sleep.
And you also, part of this was his musical talent, that when he was hearing the voices during the day, he would be playing his guitar and trying to switch the channel, as to say. So he had that gift to be able to play the guitar, and anything that was being played in his head could, you know, sort of
It was a
be
distraction.
distracted
Yeah,
out.
if I keep myself doing things, I don't hear as much stuff or feel anything weird, you know,
So you took a strength, your interest in music, to address your symptoms.
so, yeah.
And I'm sure that happens in a lot of families where that's an approach that people will use. What would you say Michael's strengths are?
His strengths are to try to keep himself, you know, from getting into a fix with the voices. He'll come and tell me, he'll try to share, he was trying to share with me. And the strength that we had is, I would take him out and we'd do landscaping and, you know, positive, keeping busy is an important thing, keeping on his painting and, like, you know, repair type things outside of the house and everything. So I was always, luckily, I was able to do these things with him.
And can you talk a little bit about the receptivity that the mental health system had to the kinds of approaches you're talking about? If you would go to an appointment, Michael, and your doctor would say, how are things going? If you would talk about doing landscaping and listening to music.
Yeah, they said that was a really good thing, you know, try your best to keep yourself busy. I mean, even if it's just video games or whatever, you know, keeping yourself occupied all the time is a good thing. Yeah, most people were pretty happy about that, you know. The worst thing you can do is sit and just listen to it, and, you know.
Well, yeah, he was open enough to be comfortable in telling me these things, because a lot of adults gets, it's got a label, you know, this
The
person's
stigma.
crazy, whatever, you know, and they don't understand it. I'm divorced, I had a husband that did not understand this, and he considered Mike as a threat, pretty much, because, you know, he thought, oh, well, we hear about all these people that do these violent acts, and he said, what if Mike sneaks up on us, and, you know, just, you know, he went away with all these, you know, thoughts in his head. He didn't want to get the education, and that's his loss. Because I went through the NAMI training when this first happened. The other experiences that we have had has been stuck in the private sector. Apparently, you have to be indigent and broke to be able to get state services.
And that's case management, for
And case
example.
everything. And so it took a long time on the private sector to spend down his college money and a fund that his grandparents had started for him.
We were on spend down for a pretty long time.
And actually the services were not very good in London County, so when his first second or third hospitalization when he was younger. I ended up transferring him to a more private, more renowned hospital on the private funds. But then they wanted to transition him into the New Haven area. Now, Mike's from, little old East Lyme, it's quiet, seashore, and they want to transition him into downtown New Haven with the sirens and all of that going on.
Yeah.
That was tough, because that's not where Mike belonged. So then we came back, and the only thing we could find was a bed and care, and that was the Shantuck home.
Yeah.
And
Bakersfield.
that was for people with lower functioning. So I find that was demeaning towards Mike.
So it sounds like you were his case manager.
Well, I kind of had to be. There was nobody there to try to figure this out. I tried to get the education and did the best I could.
And so if you could change something about that situation, what would you suggest?
The whole thing.
From your experience.
From my experience, there should be some type of access to state help where you can still stay partly on private and be able to get the services. Because when he was at Shantuck, nobody could take him on a van to do any of the trips that were scheduled with the case manager. He didn't really have a case manager, he just had a psych doctor. So I was doing all the traveling back and forth. And luckily, because my husband, his father was undiagnosed schizophrenic, he ended his life at 29. So I had the 2 kids, and I was on Social Security from a deceased family member. And we were able to access that extra money when he was 21 and considered hospitalized as severely disabled. At 21, we could access it again for Mike instead of having it at 18 cut off. So that was a blessing, but it's just a jumble, of bureaucracy, pounding desks, and then people telling you go to this hospital, and then they're not accepting him because he's on private.
So what changed that Michael is now able to access services?
He's out of private money.
I'm finally on state. I got my full Title 19 last summer.
And your Title 19 is your medical insurance?
Yeah, Title 19, and I get full the SSI, SSD things. I have some money too. Yeah, that's when we hooked up with Reliance House, and they led us to here, and to come to a better or come to a place.
Finally, he gets to qualify. At how old are you?
33 now.
Yeah, and how many years have we been trying to get these
I know it
services?
took like 10 years.
Yeah.
It's really a long time. So.
And were you doing this, I'm sure you saw other families who were having the same experiences or similar experiences? You mentioned NAMI, that's why I'm asking.
Well, I started with them, but whoever I would try to call in the bureaucracy, I'm trying to think of what the name was with the state hospital, Nanchuk. They kept telling me Nanchuk, is that the
Natchog.
Natchog. Help take him there when he was having these frequent hospitalizations, which usually goes with a schizophrenic diagnosis, that they first have to accept it, and there are a few of those. There were many hospitalizations. They were giving me the wrong information. There was nobody there in the middle to advocate until I got to the head of the Natchug Hospital, who finally called me back after weeks of all of this trying to find services, and said, well, we can't accept him, we only accept people on state. So people were giving me the wrong information from the get-go. And so I'm going down all these different roads, trying to see what I can do to help.
Yeah.
And it was very depleting, and it wasn't good for him. Because, the services weren't there, they weren't going to offer it until you're on state.
So can you talk a little bit about that experience that your mom is referencing, where you were continuing to look for help and it was...
Yeah, I was having a lot of problems, and I was sort of hiding it from everybody, or trying to, I don't know, it's just, I didn't really get help until like the 3rd hospitalization, where they finally came up with a diagnosis for me, but, it's like, I was acting out, I was saying weird things to people, that I shouldn't have been saying, and I don't know, it was a mess kind of,
Well, yeah, the local services is mostly, you know, the local hospital is, you know, they keep you so long, and it's basically until the insurance is up. And then it's like, okay, you're fine, you're not a danger to yourself, and they keep discharging and discharging. There's no real aftercare after that. So a lot of these people fall right through the cracks, because they're going to continue to do that. We transferred him to a private hospital because it was so bad at the private, the private hospital here in New London County, I'm not gonna name which one, that it just was like, almost like, you know, this is ridiculous. They're not solving the problem. And there were some things we had to do.
And were they interested in your points of view as family, as the person?
Not the
Michael, as
hospital,
person who
no.
was being
Yeah, they
served?
sat down with me for meetings and stuff, which they do, you know, a couple times a week. Like I'd sit down and talk to a person, you know. So they were, you know, getting into my head and stuff, trying to figure things out. But I don't know.
Were they asking the right questions?
I think they were.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about
Even
you?
the case management services at the hospital, that's where I got that information. Were telling me non-chug. So then I'm off chasing after non-chug. They're keep, you know, discharging him. He's really not well. He hasn't got it yet because they haven't leveled the meds out. And this just continued on until, you know, we found a private hospital. I just pulled him out. And had to transfer him over there, and that was in New Haven County. And that was the one that dealt predominantly with schizophrenic, and they had a better discharge, you know, program where you were discharged, but you were still there. You weren't sent home. You were into a house or something with other people, right?
Yeah, that's how it went. Yeah.
And that worked out well for you?
Yeah, it worked good.
Okay.
And after that place, they sent me over to a place in New Haven, which was like a home to live in, and that place was okay, you know.
But it's not home. It's in the city.
Yeah, that was the problem. It was right on the main downtown street, you know, so there's a lot of traffic, a lot of noise.
A lot of sirens, and
Yeah,
schizophrenics or sound, you know, audible is louder for them. And a lot of, you know, things moving around. There's a lot of, it brings the stresses of the illness forward. So it's very hard for them to manage sometimes. But we got him up here, and I put him in the wrong place, but, you know, then he ended up home again. It's back and forth between home, too. We're
So,
doing stints at home, but I'm isolated. And I'm in the summer community, and in the summers, it became too much for him, all the activity that's going on with all these people showing up for the beach. And no bus services, no services at all, just me.
so now you are at Martin House. And how long have you been at Martin House, Mike?
11 months now.
Okay. And how is that working out for you?
I think it's working out great. You have access to all the bus lines. You can get everywhere you need to go. You can take care of yourself without being dependent on her for rides and things like that, you know. It's also able to get a little bit of work, you know, in the kitchen. And it's nice, you know. It's a good job, you know. I don't know, it's just been a real good thing, I think, coming here, you know. This is my favorite place I've been to out of all the places so far, I think I could say, you know.
And what kinds of things are you looking forward to in your future?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just hanging out for now, continuing to work and stuff, but, you know. I don't know.
It's been a wonderful change and a transition that I could not offer him, being that, you know, yes, we get along fine, but, you know, I'm still the mom. And, you know, he's an adult. And sometimes some of those old behaviors are back and forth.
Right.
And by him being here, he's able to build his own, you know, self-esteem. He's also been able to socialize with other adults, but then he has this independence of me, and that has been a double plus for both of us. Me not having to manage everything and him having his own life. You can't expect an adult to stay at home all the time, and a lot of these parents, they don't end up with these type of situations like at Martin House until the parents are too elderly.
Right.
So it was time to try to do something for Mike now, because later, then it's just a whole, you know, can of worms for whatever's next.
Right. the phase of life issue, I think is what you're talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
You're each in your own phase of life.
Right, and I'm gonna get older, and I'm just one person. But he's helped me a lot along the way because we're a team. We were a team, fixing things together and all that. It has been a loss on that side, but you know, it's also been a huge growth for him that I could not offer. I could not offer all of this. And the independent, you know, he doesn't have to share a room. He's got his independence here. He can walk off campus. There's nobody following him around or something like if he was in some hospital. And the people here are higher functioning. That's what he needed. And there was nothing that was, you know, in between all this private stuff that we went through, hospitalizations and aftercare and everything that really would compare to what is here. And this is wonderful. And I hope they continue to, you know, support it.
So in summary, is there anything that either one of you would like to say?
Not really, you know.
I just, it's a godsend. It's a wonderful opportunity for people that are struggling with this. And it isn't just the mentally ill member, it's the whole family, because the family becomes isolated from their community because the community doesn't really understand the mental illness. And by being open here like this, and they also have events and things that he can go to, you know, I could never offer this, but you know, it's a wonderful opportunity. I'm so happy it's here, and I'm happy that, you know, everybody has respect here for each other, and you know, nobody's babied, you know, and they also give them opportunity to create their own, you know, accesses to jobs, education. You know, the whole gauntlet that, you know, he'll be able to get a grant to go to college if he wants to. But, you know, you had to wait until this point to get it.
Well, thank you for your family story, and good luck to you, Michael, and good luck to you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
You got a friend in me.
Yeah, you got